Hello everyone, and welcome back to episode 9 of Brickhouse Banter, my Mech Arena podcast. Today I'm going to be talking all about the new weapon, the Particle Beam, specifically the Particle Beam 8 here. I'm going to be running it in some different battles, and I'm just going to be talking. The footage is not connected to what I'm saying. I just recorded some footage, and I'm going to be talking over it, just talking everything that I've been thinking about the weapon after using it for a decent bit. Do note that everything I say in this video is not, it's not well based. I mean, I've played with this weapon for one day, so whatever I'm saying, it's just my initial impressions. It's not, if I say the weapon's good, it doesn't mean you have to go get it. If I say it's bad, it doesn't mean it will never be good. Things change over time. Weapons and mechs can get better or worse, just depending on how the meta shifts. So, with that out of the way, let's get right into it. So yeah, basically the Particle Beam, if you haven't seen yet, which I'm sure a lot of you have, essentially it fires a beam for its first stage of firing, so it just will shoot at its enemies at up to 100 meters of the base range, and then after shooting like 10 of those shots, it goes into the second mode of the weapon, which is like the blast mode they call it. So essentially, you, instead of the weapon running out of ammo, you have to charge up the blast mode. So hitting opponents will charge up this blast, which is pretty much just like a railgun shot, but the ones I have here are going to be weaker because obviously it's an 8 energy weapon. So it's pretty similar. The beam mode is very similar to other beam weapons. Specifically, I'd say the stasis beam. It's just dealing damage and it hits the enemies. You can't shoot it. You have to be hitting or shooting at an enemy, hitting an enemy for it to charge up and for it to fire. So you can't shoot at the floor or through a wall at an enemy. It has to actually be hitting the enemy because it doesn't let you charge it up other than when you're attacking someone. It charges up really quick. It charges up fast, and then you're able to save these blast shots. So this is very similar to the Graviton. The Graviton does, a status effect, the implosion, right? But you can't save it up. It just goes, fills the implosion meter, and then once it's full, then you will get the implosion and deal that big chunk of damage. With the particle beams, for one, it's not an effect, so Eclipse can be hit by the blast. Excuse me. But you can save this blast for when you want it, and your weapons will kind of indicate it to you. They kind of show you. You'll see at some point in this recording, like, you'll see how the blast is indicated. It kind of changes color. You'll be able to tell. So basically, if you see the weapon ammo indicator, right? It starts at 0, then it charges to 100, and then at 100, the weapon will be able to blast. And after that, it actually goes into its reload, which is 3 seconds, around 3 seconds. Yeah, it's a 3-second reload after you do the blast, and then you can start the beam mode again. So basically it has 2 modes and then the reload, right? And so now the good mode would be the blast mode, because burst damage is better than the sustained damage, because sustained basically means you're going to get hit. And the reason I'm playing these on Aegis is because he's able to put out his dome, and then he's safe, or relatively safe, right? So I can charge up, shoot, do whatever I need to, and I'm pretty safe. It would work well on Panther for the same reason. It could work well on different mechs, but a lot of mechs it wouldn't be great on. Like, I imagine Eclipse would be pretty good with it, but Panther or Aegis might be the best picks. This is the best pick for me because I'm running a little bit weaker hanger. So these Particle Beam 8s, right? These are just the 8s, so they work in this hanger a bit better. In case you're wondering, this is not my normal hanger. It's just a different hanger I was running for this. So yeah, some interesting things to note. This is actually the first weapon that can fire infinitely. I believe, if I'm not incorrect, you can essentially just hold down the firing button at any time, and even if you reach that 100 where the blast would come, you can actually just keep firing. So in some situations, it's better to continue firing than to use the burst damage, right? So say I'm shooting at a sentinel, a shielded mech, right? I have the blast is almost ready. I shoot my beams, and the blast would now be ready. If I take my hand off the firing button, my finger off the firing button, the blast will come, and then it would fire, taking down the rest of the shield. But it's actually more efficient in that case, or could be more efficient for me to, continue firing with the beams, taking down the shield, and then using the blast on the Sentinel's actual HP. Because then I would get the full usage of the blast. Let's say the blast would kill the shield, but it didn't need the whole blast damage to do that, right? Which is pretty likely. You'll probably see me do it at some point during these battles as well. So that's one application I saw for that. It could also just be if you're safe, like in the dome, maybe I just want to use that damage over time instead of going into the reload, because once I use the blast, I am forced to reload, right? I can't go back to the beam. But if I just keep using the beam, keep attacking people with the beam, then I can use the beam indefinitely. Okay, and the beam damage, don't get me wrong, it is not high, it is not good, right? You can see here, it's just a couple thousand at most with back damage. I think I was hitting 2.2k. I'm not watching the recording right now. I believe that's what it was, which, you know, again, isn't high, not for this level, not for most levels, right? The blast damage is mediocre. It's okay, right? It can do pretty good. You guys can judge it from the gameplay here. But, you know, I felt like it was pretty good. It was pretty good. It's not on the level of a railgun. The blast can actually travel 200 meters, which is actually really far for any weapon. So that's a bit of an advantage it does have, but I don't think I ever applied it at a range like that. I mean, that's really far away. It does occasionally happen. Specifically, I think Elon Station Gray, the spawns are really like 300 meters apart. I think if you guys know the map I'm talking about, that one you could potentially use that on. But yeah, so one you know feature of this is that it can fire those beams indefinitely at someone. So let's say I had a 1-star particle beam, I could fire at a maxed out bastion just for a really long time, just with the beam mode, not the blast mode, no reloading, just the beam mode over, you know, continuously, right? And then it would eventually kill him, right? So yeah, and then the second thing I found is that the particle beams seem to fire very, the beam mode seems to fire very similarly to the arc torrent, like really similar. You can probably see it here, it kind of curves a little bit, and we know like arcs will do the same thing. You're able to do a little bit of like curving around corners, like very slight, you know, because they both have that instant travel time, so when you fire, they are instantly hitting your enemy. Technically, they do have a shot speed of 1,000, but that's just so fast, it doesn't really matter. The blast, though, is 700, so you can miss the blast. It's difficult to do unless you're at, say, like, close range. I do it a few times here, but, you know, mostly I'm able to hit the blast, I think. But, you know, it's you know, so, yeah, basically the shot speed means that you will instantly hit your enemy, but you can kind of curve it around the corner a little bit, especially with the weapon that's closer to that corner on the side of your mech that would, you know, curve around better. You'll see me doing that a little bit. It's hard to do. It doesn't work great. I would say maybe arcs work a little better, but the beam mode is very similar to an arc torrent, just the damage is way lower and the range is higher. It's kind of a trade-off. So, you know, obviously this beam looks cool, but, you know, compared to the Graviton right now, obviously Gravs are better. One thing to keep in mind is that, like, let's say you have a legendary beam pilot and you're considering using beams, and you'd say, well, this is a new legendary beam, right? Should I use the particle beams? Number one, we don't know yet. It hasn't been long enough. Wait out. But the Graviton 10 does come for free in the Gear Hub, so, I mean, I know a lot of people have been getting dual copies of that and then running it on a 6-star medium energy mech, like, I don't know, Eclipse or Surge or Bastion or something. They'll run it on that. Because, again, it's like 700,000 credits, and then you just have to get up one rank, and you have 2 of them. Compared to this, which is obviously going to be, you know, mostly unattainable for most players. So, yeah, so basically, yeah, for the particle beam, it's not things that are necessarily, like, great, but it can kind of curve around corners, and it can fire indefinitely like that. I feel like it's a very interesting weapon. Because it has these 2 modes, which I feel like is kind of a new thing. A lot of weapons, you know, I was comparing it to the arc torrent, right? But the arc torrent just fires, right? And then, you know, it'll run out of ammo. The particle beam does fire for a long time. Like, it doesn't really need to reload that much. It has the 3-second reload, but then again, you can just kind of keep firing it, or you can use the blast. But the reload is never long, which means you're never out of ammo. But in most situations, you're gonna want that blast as soon as possible. Which means that against players who are not going to want to expose themselves, it's going to be hard to charge up blasts, right? Like, it's not impossible, but it's going to be difficult. Like, against bots, I play a lot against bots in these matches you're seeing. They're going to walk out, let me, you know, hit them. I have my dome up, they can't even hit me back, and then I blast them, right? You know, it can deal damage, but it's not that great against players. Now, it may be better than Gravitons, because Gravitons require a lot of exposure at the same time. For these, you can, you know, just hit them once around a corner, and that will charge up some of your blast, right? So you can get it like that. And it is, I mean, what I've heard a lot of people saying is this will, like, Graviton right now, Graviton beam is great for farming bots, like, incredible. It's like long range, not like as long range as Railgun or EM, but I think it's 100 meters, long range weapon that does tons of damage. The Graviton beam does an incredible amount of damage. It almost never runs out of ammo, right? So what you're gonna want to use it on, typically Panther. You just sit there in your Panther, and every bot just walks out, and you just beam them down, implode them a few times, and they're gone, right? Gravitons are great for throwing bots, but against players, every player is going to run away. Nobody wants to get hit by that implosion. Nobody wants to get imploded, right? It hurts, right? It does a lot of damage. So all you have to do is just dodge away. You just have to dodge behind, which you're probably already running snipers or discs or something. You just splash them or snipe them back, but they can't get the implosion. Gravitons don't deal good damage without the implosion. With these weapons, with the particle beam, you can, slowly charge up that blast, or charge it up on a bot and then use it on a player, right? And then they'll get hit by that, stronger blast, blast shot, I guess. I don't know, blast mode. I don't know what to call it, but yeah. So I mean, very interesting weapon. Definitely, I would say it performed reasonably well, but again, I was using Aegis, which is one of the strongest. Aegis is so incredibly powerful now that you can shoot back through his shield. I mean, yes, you can destroy, or I should say dome. You can the enemy can destroy the dome, but it's really hard to. Miniguns can do it, but other than miniguns, I almost never have it happen. Maybe multiple snipers hitting it at once can, but mainly just miniguns can do it. And Stormrack, which I don't encounter too much, but Stormrack, well, I guess I do, but I don't know. I guess not when I'm using my Aegis, but the Stormrack obviously does extra damage to the shield, so it can as well. Those are the main two that are usually going to take down your dome, and, with the particle beam, I basically never lost my dome, and I just had that, 10 seconds of duration for Aegis's dome, and I can just fire for that. But most other mechs are going to struggle a lot. I tried it on one or two other mechs. I haven't played with this much, so don't take everything I'm saying as, complete fact. This is just my own initial, thoughts. Don't take this too seriously, guys. Please don't go making conclusions. Go make your own, I guess I'm not going to get particle beam. He says it's bad, but it's like day one. This is the first time I've ever had it, right? Anyways, yeah, so, basically Aegis can fire these for a long time and be exposed. Unlike most mechs at this point. I mean, most of the meta is just, sniper or disc, right? It's EM, railgun, or disc. Choose your pick. Which one would you like to use? Splash damage or one shot from far away? Huge damage, right? And Aegis can, you kind of counter that because his dome has a lot of HP and he can fire back and be in, that whole large area of the dome, and he can it's essentially cover where he wants it to be, right? Same with Panther, but yeah. Anyways. I think the particle beam is really interesting. I feel like it's going to be a high skill weapon, because there's all these different factors. It can curve around corners. It's not only be about, using your blasts well. You could alternate blasts. You can have one blast ready on one of your particle beams, and then the other one is still charging or reloading. So, I mean, I don't know how much damage these blasts are going to do with the higher particle beams. I mean, I assume there'll be, I don't know, like a 12 or 16 or something, right? So, how would is the damage going to ever be high enough where it's going to be viable? I mean, we just don't know. My pilot is not ideal. It's like rank 4. You saw me leveling at the beginning because I needed to level it up, so the particle beams did decent damage, but they're rank 5. The particle beams I have are rank 5. The pilot's rank 4, but I just have no implants, so there's just 0 implants on the pilot. So, that's a thing I'm missing. Speaking of the implants, so the ones that are, I believe there's just 2. I don't know, I might have this wrong, but there's at least 2. So there's 2 different ones for damage. You can have the blast damage or the beam damage, right? So there's obviously the 2 modes, but coming with that, there's 2 different types of, types of implants you can get. I'm just going to check it real quick. If you guys would give me a second, I'm going to try to find it. In the implants. Hopefully they've been added. Yeah, so we have the blast mode damage, which goes up to 30%. So that would increase the blast mode. This is the better one of the 2, right? Because the blast is the more important part. Say you've charged up your particle beams, and there's a surge coming at you, a player surge, right? He wants to dash you. Let's say you're in an Aegis, right? I don't know if there's a particle beam 12. You have the particle beam 12s. You want that blast to kill him in one hit, right? You don't want him to not die and then stun you, right? So you're gonna want that blast damage. And then the next legendary implant, I'm looking at the legendaries, particle beam damage. So in the beam mode, 30% more damage. For the legendary one at max level, So that's decent. If you have a good way to use it, kind of as like a long range arc torrent, you'll see here I do a lot of like kind of sniping with them. But like, you know, it's essentially like a longer range arc torrent. To be fair, arcs have pretty good range, but you know, and then you also have that blast mode. So interesting. But, you know, that one's worse than the blast. You want the blast damage. And then the third one, I forgot about this one, is the particle beam reload, which will reduce it by 30%. So I would assume it just goes down from 3 seconds to 2 seconds, which is good. It reduces the time you don't have that firing. I would assume you would run that one when you run these weapons, but the main one to get, I would think, at least, I mean, again, I don't have any of these, but I would think it would be the, particle beam blast damage, right? Because the blast is the most important part. But yeah, right now I'm just hoping I get one of these implants. Hopefully the blast damage, maybe an epic would be pretty nice. But you know, I just have none right now. So I just you know, these my particle beams are not at like some great level, but I'm just using them on a good mech. They're rank 5 though, so that's good. But yeah, I'm interested to hear what you guys have been thinking about the particle beam. Again, I think it'll be a high skill weapon. We'll see in the future, but it's a bit more complex than other weapons. You know, than say like, I don't know. Then again, we've been comparing to Arc Torrent. Arc Torrent, you aim, you point, you fire, right? With this one, you have 2 modes. You have you know, a reload in there. You have these blasts, which you do need to aim. They need to be aimed pretty well, right? I struggled at close range. You might have seen some parts here where, you know, it's like hard to aim them at closer range. You know, just because that's just the nature of a sniper rifle. You would hope that it would do, you know, less damage at close range, which is an advantage it has. Like, you know, EMs kind of have fall off, like technically have damage fall off, not too much, but long arms have damage fall off. Railguns don't, and I don't believe this blast does at all, which is, you know, a bit of an advantage it has. So yeah, the thing with the blast though is that you can snipe a lot more with it than the beam, because it has that farther range. I didn't utilize it again, like I was saying earlier, I didn't really utilize that, but you know, it's just something to note. But right now I would say I'm excited for these weapons. They've grown on me. When I first saw them, I didn't think they were going to be anything too special. I mean the concept of a beam, a new beam was cool. You know, I would say we need another beam, even our next weapon could be another beam. That'd be cool. The other beams apply effects unlike this one. This one doesn't, right? We have you know, implosion, thermal, stasis, right? So it's kind of interesting how this one doesn't. I feel like I wish it kind of did give effect, right? But you know, it doesn't right now. I don't think they'll change that. Somebody suggested to me that it could be like a DOT, basically just like Redox's ability. I don't know if that's the right thing for this. It doesn't feel like it fits the vibe of the weapon, but I don't have a better option. But you know, just, you know, things to consider. It would be, I feel like the beams have always been the ones, you know, especially with the first 2 beams, basically just like, you know, being the support weapon, slowing and increasing damage on your enemies. You know, Graviton's a lot more viable. It's not a support weapon at all. It only works for yourself, but you know, it's still giving an effect. But this one just doesn't at all, which is okay. I think this is kind of a combination between beam and sniper, obviously with the blast basically being a railgun or, you know, some kind of sniper shot, which is fine. You know, it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting to see where this weapon goes. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. What are your initial thoughts after seeing this? What do you think will, you know, you think the weapon will become meta? You know, just what do you think? Again, don't take anything I said in this video too seriously. This is just my initial thoughts about this, just what I've been thinking after using it for a little bit. I've only played, I don't know, maybe 20 battles with it, so not that many. I mean, you know, again, I don't have a great setup. I don't have higher ones. But yeah, definitely comment down below what you guys have been thinking about this weapon. Subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Thank you for watching to the end. Drop a like if you enjoyed it. If you want to see more podcasts, just tell me. I'll hopefully make them. You know. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.